Does supply and demand really matter? You came here for the truth. Today we are going to talk about supply and demand. So let's begin with real estate. Many people believe that as long as there are buyers for these new homes that are being built, the prices will continue to rise. As long as there are foreigners, as long as there are immigrants willing to purchase these properties that are being built in these megacities, the price will rise. And the same goes for equities. As long as there are people there to buy up the shares, the prices will rise as well. And this is the consensus within the field of economics. Your financial advisor will tell you the same. And of course, the general public believes this as well. But this isn't true. Let me explain why. We have supply and demand that exists, and that, of course, underlines everything. However, we have recessions, depressions, panics, crashes, and collapses. And these things throw off the balance of everything that we normally take for granted. That prices will continue to rise, that things appear the way they were yesterday. But there are times in history when that's not the case. So take, for example, real estate in 2007 in the US. The prices were rising and rising and rising. But what happened? They got carried away. The prices were rising too fast, and they realized that this wasn't reality. One thing led to another, and all of that was being covered up. You've probably read it all before. But think about it. Everything prior to that collapse, we knew it all. We knew how badly it was becoming. We knew that there was a glut of homes. We knew that interest rates were reasonable at the time, but still historically too low. And all the while, all of that information was public. But as long as the prices kept rising, people said, just keep your mouth shut, just let it happen. I'm making a lot of money on this asset, and let's just keep it where it is. And that's fine, until the day that something happens. But it didn't even have to take place in real estate. Think about the financial crisis for a moment. All of those different companies that either went belly up, or they had to be different mergers and acquisitions that took place as a result of the crisis, that all started because of the subprime. That was the linchpin. So you don't have to even think of it directly. You also have to remember the ripple effect. That's so important, and people don't get that through their heads. The same thing exists within equities. Yes, today everything might be okay. You might have a buyer tomorrow. But what about down the road? You don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know what else will trigger a sell-off in that particular asset. Supply and demand might be there. Look at oil. We are still as dependent on oil today as we were in, let's say, 2000, 2001. What about in 2007? Realistically, not much has changed. We're going towards more of the solar panels and everything else, but ultimately the world is heavily, heavily reliant on oil. Look how much the price has fluctuated. $10, $110, down all the way up until let's say $50. Fundamentally, not much has changed. Surely, geopolitically things are different, and you see that the usages are different, the amount that are kept in inventories are different. But let's just break it down simply. Not much has changed. And yet, the price fluctuates dramatically, and you see companies changing. You see a lot of different things that occur when ultimately people still need oil. They needed it 10, 20 years ago. They need it right now. It's a fact. So what do we do exactly? Well, you need to understand that we have to look at it from a fundamental analysis. That's understood. But we also have to realize that these things on occasion do not matter. They change. And that is affected by various different indicators that we see. If the economy is not doing well, you may not see a particular asset rising, but you may see it rising as well. That's the funny thing about it. People believe that there are certain unchangeable things. As long as there's a buyer for the real estate, don't worry, because there will be always this interest and the prices can continue to rise. Look at what's happening in these real estate markets in the mega cities, where you see them rising and rising and rising. But what would happen if interest rates rise? All of a sudden, those fundamentals don't matter anymore, and the euphoria takes over, and the selling begins, and the panic takes hold, and people will be unable to therefore afford their homes. One thing leads to another. They can't go to the restaurants for a little while. They can't spend at the shopping malls anymore. They're not buying their iPhones. One thing at a time. It all triggers whatever you're interested in along the way. You just got to follow that ripple effect and see how it affects you. But you understand what I'm saying here is that, yes, there is a fundamental analysis and that's important and everything. But along the way, we encounter these brief periods of time where everything gets thrown off and everything gets thrown out the window. And you have to understand that these happen. These are devastating. And a lot of people don't know that because they probably only started paying attention from March 2009 and onward. If somebody, for example, is in the real estate field and they've been in, let's say, Canada, they started in the mid-1990s. They have never seen real estate prices fall. They've never seen interest rates fall. They've only seen interest rates getting lower and lower, mortgage rates getting lower and lower, and at the same time prices rising. So what are they going to believe? Of course, they're in this business every single day, and they see that. Obviously, they're not going to believe what you have to say when you think like this, but the reality is it happens. And guess what? A lot of people, because they are in way over their heads, they get hurt, and it's dangerous, and we need to understand that this does happen. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. Very briefly, just wanted to bring it to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Just wanted to say hello. I just wanted to say thank you to all of my supporters out there. And that's all for today. Take care. See you later.